We are live with Listen to Lou. This is our first show. And so I've decided to ask my dad a bunch of questions, and he's decided that he doesn't want the questions ahead of time. So, Dad, tell me about your upbringing.
I was raised in the Bronx by my mother and my grandmother because my dad took a powder when I was less than a year old.
Oh, gosh. What made you want to become a cop, specifically a transit cop?
Because it paid the most money I could earn with a high school diploma. And my friend wanted company to go down to the test, so he submitted his name and my name to take the test. And since I had a car, I did the driving. I had no intention ever of being a policeman, but it paid more than a bank teller, and I had an opportunity to meet more girls.
Okay. What was it?
That's for the fucking truck.
Okay.
You let me wear my hat, no Trump sign. That's bullshit.
Anyway, what was it like growing up with a dad?
Without
a dad.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Having your grandmother come out with the broom, chasing you down the street, wearing the Italian house dress with the apron, and your friends looking at you like you were crazy. Oh, it was a blast.
And how do you think that changed how do you think that changed you when it comes to raising kids not having a dad?
Well, number one, I think it made me a better dad because I was more attuned to women. I've always have been.
Yeah.
I enjoy women's company probably more than men, and it made me a better dad to have daughters. Probably if I had sons, it'd be more difficult. But having two daughters, it made it a lot easier. And I also, the fact that I didn't have a dad, always stuck in my mind to make sure I would always be there for my kids. I like my dad.
How did you meet my mom?
She picked me up on a ferry boat because I had too much to drink, I think.
I almost spit my drink out. That's not how you met my mom.
I did. I met her on a ferry boat. Coming from Harrison Island Beach and Yacht Club, a singles club, going from there to the mainland.
Okay.
I struck up a conversation with her, and I needed a ride home. She gave me a ride home.
So you were a little drunk.
I wasn't planning on driving, okay?
Okay.
I wasn't drunk. I had
No.
drinks that I should have had, so I knew I wasn't going to drive home.
So how did the meshing of my mom and my sister and you work at the beginning? Because you're a young man, and now all of a sudden you had to be a parent.
And your mother's 6 years older than I am too, so that added into the equation.
Right.
I fell in love with your sister, probably the same time I fell in love with your mother.
Yeah.
So it was easy. It was still a bit tough. I felt sorry for her. It was tougher on her than on me.
I was going to ask.
I was practicing being a dad on a 3-year-old kid. Okay? And she probably said, what the hell is this stupid guy doing? You know? But it worked. She was here for dinner last night, so I guess it's okay.
What about...
But it was harder on her than me.
Yeah.
Because for me, it was practice, you know?
What about the process of entrepreneurship? You've owned a lot of different businesses. How do you come up with them?
I don't know. It just happens. When you got no education, you got to come up with something. What
made you want to be an entrepreneur?
Poverty.
Legit.
My uncles were part of the family. Okay, these guys were Union Democrats. Okay, my whole family were Democrats, and they never really seemed to get anywhere having a job with wages. And I understood that having a job with wages wasn't going to work. So
that's interesting because you bring up the whole idea of being a Democrat. I'm curious, like.
I mean, being a Republican. No.
That they were Democrats.
They still are.
And so I'm curious. Have you always been a Republican? What made you choose the party?
Well, since I'm about 14, I guess I've been I'm trying to think about that the other day. Probably since I'm about 14, I've been a Republican. 14 to 15, I worked on a farm one summer, and the family that I lived with were immigrants from the Czech Republic, from Czechoslovakia, and they watched the Republican convention on our lunch hour. We'd come in for like 2 hours and have a big meal, and they would watch and I watched it with them, and I got interested that way. The other way I got interested because I watched how the Democrats treated my family and they took them for granted because they were Italians, okay, and lived in the Bronx, and they were going to be Democrats. And I didn't like the way the politicians spoke to them. And I was like this kid in the back,
right.
14 years old, listening to the conversation. And I said, not for me.
And so since then, you've never wavered, so to speak, and have always been
a Republican. Yeah. I couldn't vote. In those days, you couldn't vote when you were 18. So I would stand in the street with Goldwater signs, and I parked my car near the polling station with a big Goldwater sign in it, because you couldn't have signs by the polling station. But if you parked your car close, they couldn't make you move the car. So I had my car parked close to the polling station in the Bronx with Goldwater signs on.
You have always seemed to be a lover of technology, like me. I can remember you having like the first cell phone when it came out.
Yeah.
What made?
And also one of the first fax machines. The fucker was about this big.
And also Elton John. Don't forget.
You're not part of this, Pat. What made you always want to get the first devices?
Because I like to be first.
Okay.
No, because it works. I like to be first. Nobody wants to be second.
Right.
So if you can be first, it's for more fun,
But you embrace technology with a high school diploma. So I'm just curious, like, there's got to be something there.
Yeah, I realized that it worked. I didn't know how to work it, so I'd get somebody who knew how to work and let them help me do it. But yeah, once you look at it, it seems to me when you don't have a lot of education, you come at decisions a much simpler way. You don't talk into that and think into that. If the thing works, and it's easier, you do it.
What is the thing that you say every morning in the shower? Motherfuckers of the world.
Oh, yes, motherfuckers of the world unite, yes.
How long have you been saying that? Where did that even come from?
I don't remember. I've been saying it a long time, but I don't remember where it came from. I made it up.
Right, obviously you made it up. Yeah, I have never heard anybody else.
Motherfuckers of the world to unite. Get rid of these people that try to bring this country down.
Okay.
And it's going to take strong people to make that happen.
Okay. The hardest thing about raising girls?
Boys.
Okay. When I say helicoptering parents, what does that mean to you?
Your mother.
Why was it important that I go to college?
Why was it what?
Why was it important that I go to college?
You would have wasted your time if you didn't go to college.
Now, if I was growing up now, would you still say the same thing?
Oh, absolutely.
What do you feel like a college education gets you?
It's today, unfortunately, it's a minimum preparation.
Well, that's what I guess I'm saying.
Years ago, high school was what you needed. Mm-hmm. Now, a college is literally a minimum preparation to get out to the workforce. Minimum.
You go
to get into a technical field,
right?
Okay? And you weren't big on getting your hands dirty, or helping out with anything that required you getting dirty and working very hard. Okay, so for you, definitely college was the way to go.
Why do you?
I'm not saying you were lazy, but you just weren't that enthusiastic about doing that kind of work.
Right. Hands-on kind of work.
Right.
Agreed. Right. Why do you think I am more equipped to be an entrepreneur than working for somebody? You always told me that. Yeah.
You're not an employee. You're a suck-ass employee.
Right.
Okay. But you'll make a great employer.
Why is that?
Because you got it in you, man. I've told you your whole life, you got that in you to be your own boss. Some people are born with it.
I was going to ask
Donald
you.
Trump, the guy's got all kinds of great education. He could have been an employee.
Right.
He's got a degree from Wharton. Why did he become an employer? Because the guy had it in him.
I was going to ask you, do you think that's something that people just have, or can they grow into it or educate?
No. You got to have it in you.
You go to church every Sunday. What do you get out of that?
Peace. Begging God to forgive me for being a motherfucker my whole life.
Ooh, yeah. What do you think?
That's what you go to church for. You go to church to
right.
ask God to forgive you, forgive your sins, try to make you a better person. I pray for everybody in the family.
Yeah. Well, normally I don't say motherfucker and church in the same
No, I don't
sentence.
say that in church.
I understand that.
Yeah,
That's why I was
when I say to God,
choking on my
I don't
coffee.
say no. I use the designation MF.
I see the designation
Right.
versus the full
Right, the full
Monty.
Exactly.
What do you feel like?
Remember, it's a house of worship, so you have to.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, I understand. What do you feel like people, like younger than me, could learn from you? Beyond the whole Democrat Republican thing.
That is the whole thing.
That's the whole thing.
Yep. Absolutely.
You don't think like entrepreneur or
No, I
raising.
think young people got it, and I talk to young people all the time. And
Yeah.
I love being with young people. I always tell them, if you got that entrepreneurial spirit in you, go for it.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be a good employee. If you take a job and you realize you're not a good employee, maybe you should think about being an entrepreneur so you employ yourself.
What is the best parenting advice you ever got?
Be there. I'll tell you the best parenting advice I ever got. I got the best parenting advice I ever got from my dad,
Okay.
who wasn't there.
I'll be there.
Be there.
Yeah.
That was 80% of life is showing up.
Right. True that. Every channel has like an intro or a saying. And what would you think yours would have? Like the Listen to Lou show. What would be like an intro or a saying?
Motherfuckers of the world unite. Can we say that?
We can say that.
Okay.
And so that will be the
Yeah.
motherfuckers of the world.
Maybe we can't say that. Maybe that's a little rough.
It's a little rough, but we're always been scrappy. I will say this. We're a family of scrappy people. Don't you think?
Yeah. My father, don't give up the ship. I don't know. Didn't somebody like John Paul Jones say that to somebody?
I don't even know who that is.
So I was like, don't give up the shit, instead of don't give up the ship. That would be more like for today's world. That would be Louis Raj instead of John Paul.
Yeah. So every 2 days, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're going to do this, and we're going to give like a subject ahead of time, and then you and I are just going to shoot the shit and talk about it. So this is our first one.
So what was
and
the subject of this one?
this one was just a background about you.
My hat. I couldn't have my trumps like this.
No.
Is bullshit. Am I going to be the sorriest thing? Like, don't I have a choice what I want for the background? You pick these funny dummy lights. Okay. Foo couch. Fine. Okay. Maybe get dressed up. Usually in my pajamas at this hour.
Well,
okay.
you can do your pajamas next time for
No,
sure.
I'll take it. They're getting wrinkled anyway, so it down.
Okay. So this is it. So this was the first Listen to Lou show. Thanks for listening.